First, let me say to our panel that's with us today and those that will be watching that I hope everyone is safe, healthy, and in good spirits. For this month's SIDEARM U, we decided to change things up a bit and hear directly from one of our partners. Therefore, I'm thrilled to welcome Jason Yellen and Patrick Fisher from the University of Maryland, and I will give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in just a moment. Before I kick this over to my colleague, Katie Weinberg, to get the conversation started, I just wanted to welcome both Jason and Patrick and thank them for their time and insights this afternoon. So thank you, gentlemen. Katie, take it away.
Thanks, Tim. Jason and Patrick have kindly agreed to join us today to talk about the great content that they are putting out there using the SIDEARM Narrator tool. And before we jump in, Jason and Patrick, if you would, please introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Jason Yellen, Strategic Communications Officer at the University of Maryland. I'm actually in my second time being in College Park. Got back to campus in January this past year. Previously, though, worked here from 1998 to 2004 and really helped launch umterps.com back in the day.
Yep, and my name is Patrick Fisher. I'm the Director of Website Management here. I'm actually in my 16th year at Maryland. Coincidentally, I was the one who replaced Jason when he left to go to UMass, and I've been here ever since, and have always been involved with the website and really took it over full time when we created this division in 2014.
Perfect. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it. So to start, I'd like to back it up a little bit and talk big picture. Can you guys please share with us your overall approach to Maryland's digital strategy?
So from my perspective, I'll just talk about overarching really since I've gotten back to campus. I mean, we're really trying to tell stories and be great storytellers. And I think that's what really draws people in and gets people to come to a website, gets people to look at you on social media. We really want to amplify our student voices and give them the opportunity to put their messages out there, telling stories of strength and perseverance, determination, spirit. And that's really what we embody here at the University of Maryland. And we're able to do that through our website and through our digital platforms. And that's really a huge importance to us.
Yeah, like Jason said, our main approach is storytelling. We have some amazing student athletes. We have some amazing alumni that do some tremendous things out there. And we want to amplify those stories so that the people that support the University of Maryland and its athletic department know what's going on. We just have a tremendous amount of positive energy in this department that we really want to get across. And the website is a perfect venue to do that, and Narrator has been a terrific tool for us to use.
That's helpful. Thank you. With the pandemic that we're in and COVID-19, and I imagine what you're saying right there has become even more important. Can you shed a little light on that as well?
We've put a huge emphasis right now because, since March, we're talking 7 months, we haven't played a game, at the University of Maryland. We haven't had a competition. We're just getting ready to start football season on October 24th. So how are we connecting with our fans? How are we staying relevant? How are we, staying on people's radar? It's through storytelling. And so we've gone out of our way to, try to unearth and find these tremendous stories, like Patrick was saying. And also in this time that we've all been dealing, with racial justice has been something as well. So trying to figure out how our student athletes and our staff are managing during the pandemic, trying to create content for our fans and followers to, follow during the pandemic. And then also, with everything going on with racial and social justice and really trying to amplify those stories and giving a voice and a platform to those that are out there.
Yeah, we've just spent a tremendous amount of time as a staff going over what has worked, what people want to see, what has resonated. We've tried some things and it hasn't worked. We've tried other things and it's been tremendously successful for us. So it's been a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but COVID-19 has really brought about an importance for getting personal with stories, whether it's the social justice, whether it's what our our student athletes are doing off the field, or what our alumni are really engaged with out there in the real world. We've done a tremendous job in telling stories of our alumni that have touched not only our fan base, but our donor base as well, which is another audience that we've really wanted to reach.
Interesting. So with these important themes that you guys are trying to highlight, can you share what your goals are around using Narrator specifically to tell these stories?
Patrick, you can take that one with Narrator.
Sure. Narrator's been a great tool. Actually, I just did a little research. We have really used Narrator. We've pushed out 60 Narrator stories since this pandemic hit. And we really didn't use it before that. What it's done is given us I wouldn't say simplified, because there's been a learning curve to it, and it's not really a simple tool. It's a very helpful tool. But what it's done is allow us flexibility, but consistency. So we've been able to use Narrator in our strategy of storytelling and give little different feel, a little different look based on what we're doing. We've had numbers of series that we've done. We have a Feature Friday series that we do that has a little different look than a Record Breaker series that we do, which has a little different look than our Terrapin Club series, our Impact for a Scholarship. So these things have been tremendous, and the flexibility of Narrator has really helped us with that.
Fantastic. Who on your team is kind of running point on using Narrator to create your content?
That's Patrick.
Yeah, Narrator's pretty much all flown through me. It's actually been really good. Quite honestly, prior to Narrator, excuse me, all of our feature stories were hand coded in an HTML editor with Adobe Dreamweaver that we would have to use a framework. Typically, it was done under a Bootstrap framework. This has really simplified that process to where we can do a lot more of these because it's not as labor intensive. But yeah, it really flows through me. And quite honestly, that's helped with the consistency of things and how we do things and approach things.
I'll just add that, we have weekly meetings with our team, in communications where we're gathering these ideas, kind of brainstorming. We really try to plan far ahead, and I know Patrick appreciates when we can get the content to him, the photos and the text to him as far in advance as we possibly can. And we're, right now we've using our outlet Basecamp that we use, we're probably, 2, 3, 4 weeks out in some of the categories, that we release during the week. So we're really trying to look ahead, different campaigns that we're doing, and then how we can utilize Narrator, to make them and really, really flourish and blow them out, with the visuals of the photos and the text.
Excellent. So you guys have touched on a lot of things that we at SIDEARM are very proud of that the Narrator delivers functionality-wise for you guys. Can you talk a little specifically about some of the features that you really rely on with Narrator or use most with Narrator?
Sure. I'll just go ahead and share my screen, and we can go through some of the projects that we've done.
That's great. Thank you.
So this is one of the things that a page that we've really just kind of launched. So we've put out a donor magazine called One Maryland Magazine that goes out to all of our donors. And we wanted to give a free preview on the website for everyone to see what we're doing. Narrator allowed us to do that in a very strikingly visual manner that, we could do it in a story that put a picture here and there, but Narrator allowed us to really get into things. And you can see once we go through, we use some differences to make things unique for our stories. It all has a similar look, but there's just little differences for each of these projects. And here we utilize the main photo, which goes above the headline. We're able to, through time, find little tricks and things of how to put buttons with text and look like these are actually two separate pieces in Narrator, but when you play with paddings and margins, you can figure out how to make them look seamless and on a screen. The quote boxes have been great for call outs. It kind of mimics what we do at the magazine, which quotes we pull out and those. Being able to do headshot arrays and using layout functions has been really nice. And here, this is a function called an image wall. You can basically, I'm not even sure what the limit is, because normally we kind of limit it to anywhere from 2 to 6, but just having these and the way that they translate into mobile design and responsive design is really important. So Narrator's been very good with that. And you can kind of see that there's, full width photos that are really nice. I don't believe we use the parallax image in this one, but that's kind of what we've done. And you can kind of see one nice thing in Narrator that we didn't have the ability with when we hand coded these, is to have this read more, which pulls in anything that's kind of related based on the sport that you pick. So for these, we actually call it our Terrapin Club is our sport. So it pulls in some of the other stories that are Terrapin Club. But you can even see here, we use a little different font in here than our base font. And some of that is to just give that a little different look for this piece for the One Maryland magazine. And here's one of our Impact for a Scholarship pieces. And here we didn't use the main photo. The main photo is still used on the front of the website, and you can still pull it into social. So if you take that link, copy it over into social, it'll still pull that main photo. But we decide on these to actually use the parallax underneath to give a little different feel. And it's a really nice function, and we still use a lot of the same things. One of the other things, our partners, our ad rights partner, Outfront Maryland Sports Properties, really was interested in having ads show up on these Narrator, on our feature pieces. Well, when we hand coded these, it wasn't always easy or to pull in the advertising that was on our main page on Terps. We could pick, we could choose, but with Narrator, we're able to actually pull in native ads from the CMS into these Narrator pieces. So when someone logs in, whatever we have into those spots is pulling into the Narrator pieces, which is a really nice piece. And your ad right partner would probably really appreciate that.
Absolutely. These look great, Patrick. You touched on a couple of them. There are obviously a lot of efficiencies with Narrator and using that tool to build kind of these wow pages. The read more, right, to keep it sticky and engaging, the native ads. Are there other key pieces that you rely on that bring you benefit using Narrator versus a third-party solution to create a wow page, or even just a feature page?
Sure. One of the other really nice pieces that they have is social media integration, and we've used this a lot with our camp, our football camp pages. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot on social media to bring the fans in and make them connected through, make them feel like they're part of the program. Well, how do we get that into a piece on our website? Well, you could go in and you can use embed codes, and you can do that in a story. Narrator makes it so easy. It's pretty much copy, paste. There's little buttons. You can do posts from Facebook, from Twitter, from Instagram. And not only does it look really nice, but it actually gives that social media engagement to where people, oh, I'm not following them. Let's click on it and find out, and it links directly to your social.
Huge. So I'm interested to know kind of the process and evolution of your experience using Narrator. So from when you first started using it to now, maybe some time savers. You know, we have some partners who maybe haven't really delved into using this yet. Maybe it's just daunting because it's new. Are there things that have made it easy for you, or some time savers that you could share with us that might encourage folks to give it a try.
Sure. There's a couple of the big time savers. One, if you have a template that you like, there's two ways that you can mimic it. You can either use the copy function, which you just, like you would do any story, because these are stories. I really haven't used a lot of these in the sport pages. I've used them in the stories. But you can just copy that, like you hit the copy button on anything, and that pulls it in, and you can just edit from there. And really, once you put a new headline, it'll add the headline, so you don't have to worry about copying over that, that file ID. The other way you can do it is by just adding a new story, and when you click on the narrator, it'll ask you, do you want to pull it in a template from a previous narrator that you've done? That's been a huge, huge time saver. And the one little trick, I started using that, and I'm like, well, because it's two options. You can copy in the framework with no content, or you can do a full copy that brings over the content. And one of my time savers is use the full content, because especially if you're going to put in ads, because it's so easy to switch out photos. It's just change image. It's easy to copy and paste, switch out text, but it keeps your ad settings right where they are. And so if you're using a sticky footer and that's your ad setting, all you've got to do is full copy and not even think about your ads, because everything's already placed, especially if you're doing things like we are with the impact of a scholarship, where it's similar week after week. The framework's already done. We're doing a record breaker series now where we're using infographics and quote graphics, and it's the same each week. And it's so simple to just hit change image, and boom, we'll go from a Grievous Vasquez quote to a Walt Williams quote. And we can get these things done in a fraction of the time that we would have if we hand coded them.
Awesome, that's hugely helpful. Can you all talk a little bit about what the engagement has been like with your fans and your community with these stories and the storytelling initiative that you guys have been using, whether it's data or just feedback or anything that resonates with y'all?
Yeah, I'll talk generally, and then I know Patrick, he runs a report monthly, so we have a lot of that data there. But I think, trying to connect with our fans, again, as you said earlier, during this COVID era, trying to find stories that they want to read about, so whether it be inside, the bubble life, we did a story on our pro lacrosse players, trying to connect with them. When it was the anniversary of, Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, trying to, touch on that and find our student athletes to give them a voice. When it was the anniversary of 9/11, we did an extensive piece on everyone who was in the athletic department, back in 2001. So trying to connect with our fan base as much as we can, as Patrick said, with Terrapin Club members and then also current, so it's like you want to find the right balance of, your fans who are lifelong, historical fans since, back in the day. And then you also want to connect with your modern day fans who are definitely, focused, you would say on like a lot of the racial justice, social justice, mental health. We had one of our best stories ever, Nikki Sleewack, a women's lacrosse player, who dealt with some mental health issues, and she came forward and wrote a first person story. And that's part of what I think has also been really effective for us, has been first person storytelling. We have given our student athletes a platform to speak. And to be honest, I mean, sometimes, it might be a little touchy, but we are giving them that platform. We had one on a baseball player, Elliot Zollner, who is coming back, for an extra year of eligibility. So trying to connect with the current topics that people are thinking about, and then also, looking at what works. So Patrick, you can talk about kind of the metrics and data that you compile monthly, which is fantastic.
Sure. We've done a lot of research and using analytics to see what works for people. And not everything does. Some things are going to hit, some things are going to miss. The one thing that we found consistently that draws good numbers are good stories. Like Jason mentioned, Nikki Sleewack, that's a women's lacrosse player, which can be a niche sport that doesn't resonate with everybody. But her story of how she was dealing with mental illness and just depression and anxiety and everything that she was going through, and that it was okay not to be okay, that hit home with everybody to where it was shared on social media, and the numbers reflected that. you know, some things have been really, really good. The Elliot Zollner piece was so touching because that came right after COVID hit. He didn't know he was getting another year when he wrote that piece. And fans who have never watched a Maryland baseball game, that never heard the name Elliot Zollner, were reading that piece. And sometimes it's not even the engagement that you're getting. Social numbers have been terrific for, you know, I would say about 95% of these things. Some of them, they just don't, for whatever reason. Timing can be a big thing. But the one stat, even more than page views, that we're looking at is average time on the page.
Yep.
And many of these stories, and you can tell which ones hit. Ellis McKinney, a football player who graduated, his father got COVID early on. And there was a battle with the hospital. He was fighting for his life. And Ellis wrote a compelling first-person piece about what that was like, what it was going through. And we pulled in social media from him, from putting signs up in the hospital to video of his dad being wheeled out when he was released. The average time on that page was close to 7 minutes. So that's just unbelievable. When you think of how quick and how short attention spans are, really, like, we just keep harping on it and going over it, but really it is the story. It's the story. It's the story. What are people interested in reading? Because the people are missing, they're missing the sports, but they're missing their connection with the student athletes. And that doesn't even stop with your current student athletes. It's connecting with the names that they know, the names that one of our biggest stories that we've had hit on came just recently, where we were like, well, we were looking at social media and we developed a list of the number of couples of former student athletes that have gotten married. And so we decided, let's start writing pieces on them. How did they meet? How did they get married? What's life been like? And we started with Brandon Lau, who's currently playing for the Tampa Bay Rays, and he's married to one of our former softball pitchers, Madison Martin, now Madison Lowe. And that story just hit, and people were so engaged with it. It didn't hurt that he's in the postseason in baseball. I'm not gonna lie, but the story was engaging, and that was the biggest thing. So we've seen page views go up. That Lau story, the love connection, as we're calling it, for that month, for the month of September, outside of our main page, our football schedule, which that's when we released it, and the football roster, because as soon as we released that, people wanted to see who's actually playing on the team. That was the number 4 page that was visited in September on our website. So really, it's story, 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 and people will engage. The page views will come, but take a look at that average time on page, because that's just as important, because that means people are actually reading your content instead of clicking and moving on.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that Lau story, and that's the truth. I mean, it brings such joy to us when we're able to see those lengthy, numbers. If we're looking at 5-6 minutes on a page, because people are really staying engaged, and it's been phenomenal to see the feedback that we've received for people, doing that. And I'm just really proud of our team and coming up with a lot of these story ideas.
Yeah, you guys, that was very insightful information, and something we know that athletic departments are always trying to figure out. So this seems like a really great way to drive some really important metrics up, while also really, connecting with your fans, which is beautiful. So on that same note, what recommendations would you guys have to share with fellow athletic departments who are looking to start doing more storytelling? Like, how did you kind of commit to this? How did you guys go down this path?
Sure. I think, number one, it's planning. It's planning and it's ideas. And you need people to bring ideas to the table. Like I said, when we get together, and so with our website and then this magazine that we're producing, and it's not a magazine about, scores and stats. It's telling, deep stories, which again ties back into the website. And we're rolling those out, as Patrick said, as a free preview on our website. So I think in terms of like coming up, you got to come up with those really good ideas and and like I said, you got to plan out. You got to think far ahead. You've got to look at the calendar. Again, so like when it was the 9/11 story, we were thinking about that like 3 weeks prior. And so then I like went and solicited all of the different feedback, from all of our staff members. When we're dealing with, when COVID hit, again, like we had a great story on our women's track and field, had 5 different student athletes who worked in the medical field, and so just thinking about these things ahead of, you can't anticipate like COVID, but once it hit, it was like, okay, what can we do? Who do we have? And again, it's a lot of communication, even like the impact of the scholarship stories. I mean, I'm working basically a month out. We've got the next 3 or 4 weeks planned out of who these people are. We're trying to look at the calendar of, the sports that, would be going on or are going on right now, in our case, just a few of them. And really, trying to have that perspective of what is going to, work. I mean, even looking ahead to the start of the football season, and we're going to do some stuff specifically around like social justice. And so it's planned out, on the Friday before our first game, which is on the road, we're going to have a big social justice piece. So our guys are going to be wearing, certain attire prior to the game. And then the following week when we're home for the first time, we're going to have additional story, first person. So just planning and coming up with those ideas. And really, we also like go around our group, and everybody's got an idea. So whether it's, again, Nikki Sliwak is a women's lacrosse player, which at Maryland, women's lacrosse is a hugely prominent sport, but it is a niche sport. But it's a great story that people want to read. We had a story about one of our women's golfers who was quarantined in France. Again, I mean, it's women's golf, but great story. And so just getting the input from all of our communications people and other staff members who work in our Terrapin Club and fundraising. And I sent emails today, like to a bunch of people in the department. Can you think of any great stories of former players, that are doing things? So that's it. It's just really incorporating, a lot of different people, and then the planning and then the execution.
I'll echo Jason on that. The planning and execution is there. 2 other things. First, it's buy-in. You've got to have buy-in from people. First, you need buy-in from the top down. Jason and I are we're parallel thinkers on this. Storytelling is prominent, but not only is it Jason and myself, those above us in the leadership team understand that this is important. And when we have an idea, it doesn't get shut down. It gets boosted, and they're like, how can we make it better? But the other thing is we need buy-in, as Jason said, from our team, and that giving everyone a voice, making everybody feel like their idea is important. And not every idea is going to be used, but one thing, this tool and the website and social media, but this tool specifically with Narrator makes it so easy that not every story that we do may get prominently featured on the front page, but it can be a feature story for a women's golf or a tennis, or which we've probably done narrator pieces on just about every sport that we've had between all of these series that we've had. So it's touched everything. The last thing I would say is engage your assets. We have some tremendous people, and some didn't even know the talent that they had. Some have found that they can write. Some have improved their writing skills. The other thing we did was tap into students. We have a tremendous communications and journalism school at the University of Maryland, and we've tapped into that resource and found some gems some diamonds in the rough, so to speak, and helped cultivate them. And we've done this in the past, and some of those people have gone on to some very prominent journalism and writing careers, and we just keep mining that, and so that doesn't overtax us when it comes to our full-time people, because they still have full-time jobs to do. They still need to actually deal with their coaches, deal with their student athletes, and writing a 2,000-word feature story may not be something that they can really tackle, but we find other assets on campus. Human resources is your #1 resource that you can tap into.
You guys, this was really, really beneficial. I feel like you guys really laid out some key tactics, benefits, results, all the things that you're really getting out of this initiative. We really appreciate you sharing these with others. And I think it will inspire some ideas. And again, we just really appreciate it.